People, come on in there. Connecting. There we are. Okay.
We live? All right.
We are live. Everybody come in, take a seat, get ready. We got Monday morning quarterbacks, I guess for you, Monday afternoon quarterbacks
Yeah, a
there
little
in the
bit. Yeah.
East. It's
Yeah.
those of you joining us. But let's give it just a second here for folks to file in. We wouldn't want them to miss a single ounce of the box office wisdom we're about to dispense. Just a second here for folks to file in. We wouldn't want them. All right. Okay, let's do it.
All right. Welcome to Monday. Nice quiet day to start the week, Richard.
Sean. Marvel is back. It's a dead cat bounce. Or is it irrelevant because it's just a different thing, or have they found a new formula, or are they killing off the old one? How's this all look to you?
Yeah, Richard, I hate to say it, but I think Marvel films have to stand on their own these days. It's no longer a blanket. You just cut and paste, and it's going to do X, Y, and Z. We've seen the past few years here a wide variety of results from the Ms. Marvel to Captain America we just had in February to this now. There's no through thread, outside of the Avengers is coming, of course, will be its other category of excellence. We'll see how high that goes to, but every film has to exist on its own now. And this one, it's a kind of it's not, it's a solid start. It's not Doctor
Solid
Strange.
was the word I think every single box office write up used solid,
I think I used it, yeah, for yesterday's wake up too.
which felt a little like damning with faint praise, but I in these days I guess we'd all solid is something we'd all be happy for here. So
Yeah, I mean, this is the first original. I mean, we had Deadpool last summer. Last year that was it for last year. It's been a while since we had, and Captain America was the fourth installation of that franchise. We haven't had a test of the market here in a good, I'll say, 2 years at least. This isn't Doctor Strange in 2022 did 187 million, which kind of had some hangover plot elements that people were excited to see. You had Guardians 3, which again is a pre-existing franchise to kick off summer in 2023 that did 118 million. It wasn't anywhere near that level, but this is kind of, again, this new era for Marvel here where every movie is a test of what these movies are going to do now. In this, it's a new era, which you've mentioned, and kind of the old 2010s era kind of ended, I'll say, right, with Guardians 3, and then Deadpool was kind of its one-off, and whatever this is going to be now, this is what every film is telling us something, and Fantastic Four will tell us something else come July. But so that's why Solid comes in, because it wasn't, this is new franchise. I mean, Captain America 4 had an audience, and there's had elements going for it. This is an original, quote unquote, original Marvel film with none of the main, no Robert Downey Jr., no Chris Hemsworth, none of those stars, Richard. So that's why I think Solid's coming out, because it's like, okay, 76 million, fine. But the problem, but I mean, the math is just changing here, right? So this is a $180 million budget, throwing another 80 to 100 million in marketing, so if this movie does 500 million, you're again kind of just breaking even. That's the new number here. Captain America 4 did about 430 million global, but again, not bad. But if you're back to this cash cow, which it once was, where you're getting profits on profits, now they're kind of just making their money back theatrically, and then obviously the windows will make money down the line, which is a big shift for what Marvel was before, Richard. So
yeah.
that's my mind where it lands on this. Is solid, but how do you plan out the future of this? This is what America's telling you your box office ceiling is at now, and China's kind of out the window as a market for this anymore. That money isn't really there and coming back. So I don't know. That's where my mind lands, Richard, on this. How about you?
So first of all, I think the question mark I had. Everybody's wanting to write, is Marvel back? Is Marvel
Yes, they're
not?
itching to. You
And
can feel it, right?
yes, and I had a trend story written that I was going to run in July, saying Marvel is dead and DC is the new Marvel.
Yes,
So
you're a
I'm now
big
I'm
believer in
now
DC, Richard. You're on the record about that.
so
Yeah.
I'm now putting that away.
All right.
I won't be running that story.
We have Superman coming
But
in July, so we'll save that
yeah,
one for then. Yeah.
but the real question mark I think that we had here was, have they killed superheroes? Like, is it
Mm.
has a superhero genre been so overdone that it's now impossible for any superhero movie to succeed? And that was a real
Legit
question
question. Yep.
a week ago. Because it was certainly feeling like that a lot of the time, and so I think we can say, okay, superheroes are not Marvel. You're not dead, and
Yes,
DC,
I think that was a question out there. People still want to come see your movies. $76 million for an opening of a film, a big number. Anybody, would love to have that kind of a number, Richard. So yes, exactly.
yeah.
But
So not
dot
dead
dot
is a
dot.
good not dead is a good place to be for
Yeah,
starters.
sure, I'll go with
Um,
that.
the and I think you're absolutely right that we are at a place where and we haven't it's not just with superhero movies. We've seen this with all kinds of franchises where a franchise late the new installment from franchise or universe X is not good enough to sell a movie, and that there was a time when that was good enough to sell a
Right,
movie.
right.
So uh, that day is over, and the idea that movies will be uh, judged by both their quality and their ability to connect the marketing with an audience
Yeah.
is
Who knew?
not a bad thing. I, the
No.
the 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 era that we were in for the past, even preceded streaming, of the idea that, like, you could build these franchises that were kind of quality proof, and
Right.
and that you just plug them in and you turn the audience back on and they return,
Yep.
uh, was a creative anomaly and not a healthy way for Hollywood to think.
Yeah,
And
it just lasted for a long time. Usually those things burn out maybe 5 years, whatever it might be, Richard. But that was the whole, 2008 through 2023. That was a good 15-year run of that. And I think it's just the length of it may have been deceiving, but that would never exist. There's always going to be a point where you'll run it too far, you've done too much, or the audience just changes interest, whatever it might be. So, but Richard, I think the underlying question is under this, that people maybe not are not saying, or aren't saying the quiet part out loud, Richard, is, can
mm,
Marvel make a good Marvel movie again?
yeah,
Because I think that was the
yep,
real thing of this. What this movie was is maybe not the box office, but I think Captain America. But look, and I'm not a Marvel person. I'm going to say for the record, I have no skin in this game. I'm just speaking anecdotally from what I read and what I hear about people raving or not raving about things. But people liked Guardians 3. That was 2023. That was fine. I think it ended that franchise well. Obviously, James Gunn has now moved on to DC, so he's out of that Marvel universe. Okay,
yeah.
that talent has left the shed. All right, fine. Ms. Marvel was the last Ant-Man movie was kind of like, okay, this Captain
And
America
Deadpool
4
was.
was, but then Deadpool, yeah, did, but I
So
think
so
that
you
with
you
this,
had the hits were both sort of with asterisks by them. Like,
yeah,
are
I
they
mean,
really
Deadpool's in
Marvel
its own
movies?
universe. Yeah, I mean, that's, no one's like, oh, this is an indication of, and whatever it might be. That's fine. So that's what this everybody's looking at this movie, because it was like, it is different, it is original. And this be good. And the cinema score was an A minus. It seems like this, the Captain America 4 was a B minus coming out in February, which is, I think, they're one of the lowest scores ever, if not the lowest score ever.
No.
So that's the why I say, we all say solid, because I think we're also being, it's not just the box office number, it's the creative execution. And we'll see how weekend two goes. This weekend, Richard, there's no other really major wide release this weekend, so it has the whole the 2 week bounce there. So the word of mouth, I'm actually more interested to see what it does this weekend than it probably opened to, because it opened pretty much on track with what tracking was. It wasn't a surprise. It was, again, a solid, like, yep, you hit the mark. Congratulations. Will people say, hey, you need to go see this movie? That's what I think the real question is, Richard, in my mind.
Yeah, it's funny because the movie, it's not like revolutionary new direction in Marveldom. It's
No, it's kind of
I mean it
Guardians-esque to me again. I'm the outsider here, but gang of people coming together, and kind of a unlikely group that are coming to save and to have a cause, Richard. But
yeah, I'd say it's more characters and less giant CGI aliens throwing office buildings at people, and more just sort of banter and emotional story. But I mean, it's still not, it has more emotional story, but it's not like this isn't
it's not a
a Sam.
Sundance movie.
It's not a
Exactly.
Samuel Beckett play here. It's not like the so it's kind of more banter and more and more kind of emotional residents. It ends, spoiler here,
Okay.
slight spoiler, but
All right.
the critical chain moment in it is a group hug that saves the world. So
Okay. All right.
that
More
that's
about
a that
feelings. Okay.
that's a different message for Marvel, but yeah, it's just well executed. I would say it's a
Again.
film with some modesty and not just relying on a bunch of effects to do the narrative work and characters and some very talented actors also.
Yeah. Great cast.
Um,
Yeah. Sure.
um, and uh, and and yeah, it's fine. I
No,
don't.
I said solid's the word that I land on it, but it kind of touches on this. I mean, not to tied into Sinners, but again, the quality of the movie matters. Is it good? Well, the word of mouth goes. These are fundamentals as old as dirt in movies, and again, we're kind of just coming back to this, Richard. Where before you could probably skate by on maybe a little bit of quality or whatever it might be, you got more of a pass, and we're beyond that with this. And I think if you have the goods, and people will talk about it. And that's why, again, I want to see what the next weekend does, because are people recommending this film? And that's what Marvel needs to, that momentum. That's what Deadpool was. That captured that, that you have to go see this movie kind of thing, which, that went to much bigger heights than this movie's going to do. But that's where I think this is interesting to watch what, again, the word of mouth is going to be the A- cinema score. Like, okay. And that was the big question, Richard. Can Marvel deliver a film like that again? Which, again, what it had before, but it's probably been a minute on that front. So, interesting. We'll see what the legs are. That's the thing, Richard. Is this
Yeah.
going to be, a $400 million movie or a $600 million movie? We'll see. But,
Reader
uh,
Tom Hall says in the
yeah,
comments, he says, not a Marvel person, but the tone of Thunderbolts was great, including the performances. Florence Pugh was great in it. I agree.
yeah.
And it did grapple meaningfully with depression in an interesting way. I took my son, and I was surprised he liked it. Yeah, I would say it dealt with kind of big emotional themes in a way that was accessible to a broad audience. I also took my 13-year-old son, who also liked it very much,
Okay,
and
great.
yeah, not revolutionary, but a good, but good.
Yeah, and give the audience, credit. Where I think again, like, can you handle these themes? Like, it's nice to see them. It's a risk of sorts, but I mean, if you deliver, if you challenge an audience, sometimes they'll show up. Richard, I think that was a fear sometimes in Hollywood. Well, you don't want people, don't make it too esoteric or too whatever, because then you'll lose people. But I think the audience repeatedly challenges you, or shows up to those challenges, and like, yeah. We let Sinners, another thing. It's not just a vampire movie. It's a lot of themes, a lot of things to to dive into there, and people are responding to that. They like that complexity to it, which I think we'll see what Marvel does with that, and we'll see what Fantastic Four delivers. Is that in this vein of movie, or back to the where does it land on the spectrum, Richard? So
So
something to watch.
in terms of the profitability of it, I
Yeah,
think we talk about what is so Marvel is stock. What is it worth today compared to a week ago? And
right.
today it has a new set of characters where it had nothing yet a week ago.
Okay.
A new franchise board that can be spun off that can continue in further movies and rides and cruise ships
Lunchboxes. Yes, right.
yeah and toys and all sorts of other things. It has an asset that the people are saying. Um, I, I, I think of this more in terms of valuation than profitability. Like how
Long
much,
term brand
yeah,
halo versus the
that
individual movie. Okay.
and it also keeps Marvel, Marvel for Marvel to stay vital, Marvel has to keep having hits at regular intervals. So
Yeah.
it keeps the larger Marvel product alive. Uh, which, if this say imagine a world where this had flopped, like
Right, exactly right. That's why solid again, Richard. It wasn't like the disaster that it could have been. You never know, but you're right.
we'd be yeah, and if this had flopped, we would be having talks about like, okay, well, first
Is
of all,
this
there'd be
whole thing over?
calls for Kevin Feige's head
Well,
everywhere
yeah,
at
that's
that
true.
at this point, and we'd be saying, yeah, are we just done with superheroes? Are we done
Right.
with and that would and the stock would be, where would the Marvel
Yes.
stock be compared to that? And the other part of it is, when we talk about the profitability of these things, we talk about the cost of this, but there's no rule that you have to spend $500 million producing every one of these movies. Like that doesn't. And if say that this is where the ceiling is, uh, in theory you could spend less. I mean, and this was a movie with I don't I didn't have my stopwatch going, but a good percentage of it is people sitting in a car talking to each other. So
Okay.
I
Right.
don't know
Okay.
how much that costs to shoot a movie of people sitting in cars talking to each other, but
Right.
I think less than having an army of space aliens throwing buildings at each other, um,
Yeah.
is my guess.
No, and this one, it's 180 million. It's not 250. Again, there's I think Bob Iger, of course, has his, eye on this. Exactly what you just said, Richard. Is like, do these movies have to, was it before? It was just cut and paste. Yeah, it's 200 million. It's 250. Every one of these costs that, and that's it. And now I think the eye is kind of like, well, does it need to be 180, and things like, does it need to be 200, 250? Can it be 150? What do we get for that? So I think they're having those conversations, Richard. And then again, the numbers dictate this. Every the Marvel, these films of Captain America, like 430, like Ant-Man 100, maybe 480, like they're not doing $1 billion anymore, they're doing half that. Well, if that's what the audience is telling you, then we have to retrofit our model here, and I think that's what Fantastic Four will be. That'll really round out, I think, the picture here. Again, what is this new era of Marvel, and what kind of money can we really expect from this? Again, the Deadpool is its own own universe thing. So
And then
um
then we'll see with Superman and from DC,
right, and that'll be the other indicator too. But
larger.
I will say, Richard, just in the bigger box office picture here, last summer's, we all probably forgot at this point, the Fall Guy opened at 28 million. So it's nice to have 76 million. Marvel took a year off, from opening summer, which it had done, for all recent memory. And Avengers is back, the next two. So again, this is getting that step up from last year. So again, the box office momentum continues overall, that we've had a good, a great August. I mean, sorry, great April. So there is that element to this, that it delivered to keep that momentum going, where we're going to a huge Memorial Day, I mean, in theory, with the Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch. So that's the other key, bigger picture box office thing to keep in mind here.
Um, any other thoughts about this weekend's box office?
I'll
Sinners.
just say, in a contrast, Richard, back to, we're talking about how big can these Marvel movies, what's the ceiling on them financially, but Minecraft's closing in $1 billion, so that $1 billion movie is still out there for the taking. That's
Mm,
not a foreign concept anymore, or not that there's a big question about that. Obviously, Deadpool did over a billion, Inside Out did over a billion last year. Super Mario's done over, so they're out there, but it's been, contrast with. Thunderbolts isn't going to be doing $1 billion, but Minecraft is definitely going to be, hitting a billion. So that's the other thing. That movie just keeps going, and another $14 million in weekend five. So the juggernauts are still possible out there in the box office. If that was a question for anyone out there. So that's
yeah,
also what caught my eye. So
and Sinners took another
and
33
Sinners
million
is still
third
cranking along
weekend.
there.
Uh,
I mean, that movie is going to be doing, probably over 20 million in its fourth week. Because again, there's no new major film this Friday. So yeah, 236 million global. That's, again, everybody's takes some 3 weeks ago here, Richard.
yeah.
Uh, the sky's the limit on this movie, which is exciting. It's great. Nothing much to say. It's just exciting. It's nice to see it. So good on those
Okay.
guys. But
So can we take the box office out of the critical award at the moment, or does it
yeah,
need a few more
yes.
over time for?
Yeah, especially with the May that we have, we have Final Destination 5, which is kind of people seem to be excited about kind of before Memorial Day there. So
That was
yeah,
that was a really real standout at
yeah,
CinemaCon.
and
The
Warner's has
final
been
day.
advertising in the NBA a lot. I've been seeing a lot of ads for it. It just has that just kind of fun. It is what it is, kind of not throwback vibe in a way, but just kind of like, oh right, this was fun. This is go and be get the scare or get the I think again those moments that you've written about FOMO, Richard, right? And I think that movie feels like it's playing at least into that idea of like you're going to want to see this in a theater with your friends and maybe get jolted or whatever. It just has that element to me, but we'll see if it's true or not. But that
Yeah, and Final
has
Destination's kind of been, how long has it been since
it
the
was
last
like
one?
2012, something like that. So it's been a good 10, let's call it 10 plus years,
So
certainly. So
it's had a good time out.
yes, it's kind of
So
had that the new generation of film goer can go in and see it in theaters, which we just saw with Star Wars last weekend. It was all
yeah,
people under 30 years old went to that movie, who weren't even born sometime, when it came out in theaters. So again, have that experience in theaters with your friends, kind of thing. So it'll be fun.
and it won't be too much of a heavy lift to tell them what they need to know to
Yeah,
jump
you don't have to
jump
watch all
onto the series
previous
at
four. Yeah.
yeah, Installment 5.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Exactly.
so elsewhere, while we're looking Monday morning,
Yeah.
so foreign films have been banned, or foreign
Yes, we now
productions
have
have been banned.
imports and domestics. We don't have indies and big studio. We have imports and domestics and move the movie business, Richard.
Yeah, one of our studios is owned by Japan, so I don't know where
But that
that puts
lies. Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Almost all our movies are filmed overseas now.
Yeah.
TV shows don't count,
Not yet.
uh, so I
You
get.
know.
Could you label everything a TV movie? That you're these are all just TV movies that we're going to release on the big screen just
Yeah. I
for
mean, that's what
Oscars.
Netflix movies are. Netflix movies are probably TV movies if you're going to put a real classification on it. They don't go to theaters, and who knows how the tweet was so broad and they started walking it back a bit today of it is like, well, we're evaluating options and John Voight was at Mar-a-Lago this weekend, I read. So obviously cause and effect, we can kind of see where his mind went on it, but
Yeah, John
you
Voight's
know
production company, I noted, does its filming in look that up in Bulgaria.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, there you
uh,
go. Maybe there'll be a Bulgaria carve out in the in the
yeah.
tariff. Curiously,
My thought is he he wants Bob Iger and Brian Roberts there at Mar-a-Lago comp- showing up with their scripts of their young Donald Trump
oh, okay, right.
scripts to show him how much they're going to honor this
Mm,
regime and everything, so that they can so that they can get their exemption. I'm taking this in my column about this will for tomorrow. My column tomorrow will be something about this, and I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it.
yeah.
My first thought is one more goddamn thing
Well,
for the
right.
film for the
I
film
mean,
business,
yeah.
and at what point do you say, listen, just take me off the respirator? Like
Oh, wow.
this is
Okay.
like you guys need the bed space here. You're having to come down to visit me every day. It's too much. Just like let's just
Let's call it a day. Wow. All right.
it's just
That'll
like
be it. All right. Read that
if
tomorrow, everybody at theankler.com. Check that
if
out.
someone comes into the hospital room in the middle of the night with a pillow to
Oh, wow. Okay. You going, you
spread
going
that, then I
cuckoo's nest on me? What are you doing there, Richard? You got chief coming in?
that's what I'm saying.
All right.
That
All right.
it just feels like the number of plagues on on the industry. Like, can we ever have like just
A
a
normal
month?
year. Right.
No, not
Yeah.
a month. Like a 6 week period where like nothing. There's
Just goes
no
goes smoothly.
calamity like visited on this industry.
Yeah, and
Uh,
this administration, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, to throw on top of the 60 Minutes mediation going on, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, but I mean, the thing with this is films is we're the big exporter. We don't import a lot of film. Like the problem is with with cars and toys and things like yeah, we want to go low. These are all companies that are U.S. except for Sony are U.S. based, and we are the largest exporter. So it's not like it's just it all doesn't add up, and there's a lot of things wrong, and people are, a lot of things to come here, and we'll see what comes of it. The idea, but I mean, look, the idea is to bring more work back to LA, and I get like, which is all things we talk about. Is this the way, and Trump, the way he worded, I'm just going to put out a proclamation and then we'll walk it back 5 different ways and we'll lens, but it just throws chaos into this. We have Disney, Paramount, and Warner Brothers all have earnings call this week, so they're going to have to say something, that this is real business. And again, it's like, as the auto industry has been dealing with this chaos of like, well, what are you going to do, guys? Well, we're, this came out and it takes, films are in pre-production. Do you stop them right now if they're shooting overseas? Like, all these questions that come into mind here. It's not like you just, oh, well, okay, we can just turn this off on a dime here. So that's, just,
and the models on these movies at this point,
oh
with
yeah,
the uncertainty that already exists, like just barely a leap of faith to
razor thin. Yeah,
pretend that this thing you're shooting can ever be profitable. And I
yeah.
mean, it takes
Well, we
such
just
a
talked about it with Thunderbirds, like Thunderbolts. It's like that's probably going to break even ish. If that was a tariff, that then that would throw all that math out the window. And is this just a tax on theatrical? Is PVOD taxed? Are my windows taxed down the line? Like the revenue model for a movie isn't just the as we've talked about many times, and you write about constantly. It's not just about the theatrical, the revenue here, Richard. So it's like, well, what does this tax mean? All these questions that just clearly were not quite laid out or thought out. So we'll see, but as you said, it's another Molotov firebomb thrown over there, and see what you guys do. And I don't think we're turning off the respirator, Richard, but it's definitely something else you'll have to deal with. Add it to the list of of things that are pending in Hollywood, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, when we look back on this period 500 years from now,
5 years from now. Yeah,
it's gonna look like really, and they just kept making movies. They couldn't they couldn't see like when a plague of
it's
locusts
over.
like
Right.
invaded their house. They just or
They kept doing it. Right.
you
Yeah.
know they were hearing this screaming in the attic in the middle of the night, and they just said, "Okay, let's just try to
It's
get back
fine.
to sleep. It's just
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
wind."
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
anyway,
TBD, but
yeah.
it'll be fun.
Uh, anything else on your radar this week, or
No, I mean this
well,
is we got upfronts coming next week in New York, so that'll be that. So this week, just reveling in the we got our report cards, Richard, from our studio friends. I said we got 2 or 3 of the big ones coming with Disney, Warner Brothers, and Paramount. So that's where my mind's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, and we see where the numbers are at, Richard. And
what
I
do you
think
think they're going to say? What's your
Oh boy, I mean, each one's so different. I mean, Disney obviously have theme parks. You have Epic opening in Universal, and so they have a big Florida,
yeah.
impact going on there. So that'll be probably a big front of mind there. The TV bundle at Warner Bros. Discovery. Sometimes, Richard,
Some
here's the thing. Sometimes people announce news on these calls occasionally, but most of the time they don't. But could Warner Brothers, who's alluded to splitting again the cable business off from they're working on it. Could they come out with something that's it's possible? Paramount is just waiting, on the FCC, so probably not too much, coming out of Paramount there. So kind of 3 different cross sections of the business, Richard. And then a Paramount lawsuit obviously is in mediation now with 60 Minutes, so that's pending that. So it's never a dull
uh,
moment. I'll say that much.
I just think of I just always think of the Monty Python in the meaning of life, just gathering everybody around and say we've looked at the numbers, and we've decided to sell you off for scientific experiments. So it's scientific experiments with a lot of you.
Richard, I'm very much looking forward to reading your column tomorrow. I'm gonna leave my final thought at that one. I think today, Richard.
Okay, well, congratulations, Hollywood. Good weekend. Thank you, John Tower. For thank you, John Tower Ackerman, for your note. And we're back here every Monday morning, and so come join us. With next week, we'll have a whole new batch of results to go over.
Exactly.
Take
See you then, guys. Thanks, guys.
take care.